The space station called Orbital Harmony floated in the darkness between stars. It was massive, home to over 200,000 beings from across the galaxy. Ships came and went every hour, carrying goods and passengers from 1,000 different worlds. The station had markets, homes, factories, and warehouses. It was a city in space, and like all cities, it had its own rules about who mattered and who did not. Una arrived on a cargo ship from Earth. She was 24 years old, with black hair she kept tied back and dark eyes that watched everything carefully. She was not tall, even by human standards. She spoke softly and smiled politely at everyone she met. The other species on the station looked at her and saw nothing special, just another worker from a distant world. They did not know what Earth was. In the records of the Galactic Union, Earth was listed as a Class 7 Deathworld. This was not a casual label. Deathworlds were planets where life itself seemed designed to kill. Earth had crushing gravity compared to most inhabited worlds. Its weather could shift from calm to deadly in minutes. Its oceans were filled with predators. Its land animals hunted in packs, alone, from the sky and from beneath the ground. Even the smallest creatures carried poisons and diseases. The plants could be toxic. The insects could kill. And humans had not just survived on this world. They had conquered it. But the aliens on Orbital Harmony did not think about this. They saw Una's small frame and quiet voice. They saw her work hard and never complain. They thought she was weak. They thought she was easy to control. Una found work in the cargo section of the station. Her job was simple. Ships arrived with goods. She helped move those goods to the right places. The work was hard and the hours were long, but Una did not mind. She had grown up on a farm in Korea, carrying heavy loads since she was a child. The station's gravity was actually lighter than Earth's. What felt normal to her would have exhausted beings from other worlds. Her supervisor was a Villani named Torek. The Villani came from a paradise world. Their planet had low gravity, gentle weather, and no natural predators. They had evolved to be tall and elegant, with pale blue scales and long limbs. They considered themselves superior to most other species. The Galactic Union's laws said all species were equal, but the Villani had never truly believed this. Torek was tall even for a Villani. He stood over 2 meters high and looked down at everyone around him. He had held his position for 12 years and had learned exactly how far he could push workers without breaking any official rules. He enjoyed power. He enjoyed making others feel small. When he first saw Una, he felt something twist in his chest. It was not attraction. It was the instinct of a bully recognizing a target. She was alone. She was new. She was from a species that most station residents considered primitive. And she was quiet, which Torek mistook for fear. He began testing her on the first day. "Human," he said, not bothering to learn her name. "You will take the night shift for the next month. The previous worker quit, and someone must do it." Una looked up at him. Her expression did not change. "Yes, sir," she said. The night shift was the worst assignment in the cargo section. The heating systems were reduced to save power. The lighting was dim. Workers had to handle twice the normal load because there were fewer staff. Most beings requested transfers after a week. Una worked the night shift for a month without complaint. Torek watched her. He saw her breath mist in the cold air. He saw her carry loads that should have been too heavy for her size. He saw her work steadily, hour after hour, never slowing down. Something about her calm efficiency bothered him deeply. She was supposed to struggle. She was supposed to beg for mercy. She was supposed to break. Instead, she simply worked. When the month ended, Torek found other ways to make her life difficult. He assigned her to the farthest warehouses, adding an hour to her commute each day. He scheduled her shifts back-to-back with no rest days. He found small mistakes in her work and reported them loudly in front of other workers, even when the mistakes were not real. Una accepted everything. "Yes, sir," she would say. "I understand, sir. I will do better, sir." The other workers noticed. Some of them felt sorry for her. A few, like a human woman named Dohi, tried to warn her. "You should transfer to another section," Dohi told her one evening. They were eating together in the workers' cafeteria, a crowded space filled with dozens of different species. Torek has done this before. He picks someone and makes their life impossible until they quit or get fired. The last person he targeted had a breakdown and had to leave the station entirely. Yuna listened quietly. She took a bite of her food and chewed slowly. "Thank you for the warning," she said. "So you will transfer?" "No." Dohi stared at her. "Why not? There is no shame in avoiding a bad situation." Yuna considered the question. Her dark eyes were calm, like deep water. "I have worked hard to be here," she said finally. "I will not let one person take that from me. And," she paused, "sometimes if you run from a bully, they just find someone else to hurt. Maybe if I stay, he will focus on me instead of others." Dohi did not know what to say to this. She had never met someone who thought like that. At another table, a small being with 6 limbs was watching them. His name was Biru, and he was a Katrani. The Katrani were a timid species from a gentle world. Biru had also suffered under Toric's supervision. He had been too afraid to fight back or even to leave. He just endured day after day, hoping to be invisible. Watching Yuna, he felt something strange. It took him a while to recognize it. Hope. Back in the cargo section, Toric was reviewing Yuna's work records. He had been sure that the night shift would break her. It had broken everyone else. But her performance numbers were actually better than before. He pulled up her species file and read about Earth for the first time. Class 7 Deathworld. Extreme gravity. Hostile wildlife. Unpredictable climate. He closed the file and dismissed it from his mind. Whatever Earth was like, this small, quiet woman was clearly the weakest example of her kind. He just needed to push harder. He would find her breaking point. He was certain of it. 3 months passed on orbital harmony. The ships came and went, the workers loaded and unloaded cargo, and Toric continued his campaign against the quiet human woman who refused to break. He had tried everything he could think of. He gave her the heaviest loads. He assigned her to work in sections where the temperature controls were broken. He scheduled her shifts so that she barely had time to sleep. He criticized her work in front of others, inventing problems that did not exist. Yuna endured it all. She never argued. She never cried. She never complained to the station authorities. She simply showed up for every shift, did her work, and went home. Her dark eyes remained calm. Her voice stayed soft. She was like water flowing around a stone, unchanged by the obstacle in her path. This drove Toric mad. One morning, he was inspecting the chemical storage area when an idea came to him. On a shelf sat containers of industrial cleaning solution. The liquid inside was caustic, designed to strip rust and residue from starship hulls. A warning label showed that it could burn organic tissue on contact. Toric smiled. Later that day, he called Yuna to help him move some containers. She came without question, as she always did. She was wearing her standard work uniform with no protective gear. Toric had made sure of that. "Lift that one," he said, pointing to a container on a high shelf. Yuna reached up. As she pulled the container down, Toric stepped forward and bumped her arm. The container slipped. The lid, which Toric had loosened earlier, popped open. The caustic liquid splashed across Yuna's hands. The effect was immediate. The solution began to eat into her skin. Yuna made a small sound, barely more than a gasp. She set the container down carefully, not spilling any more, and looked at her hands. The skin was already red and blistering. "Oh dear," Toric said. His voice was flat, showing no real concern. "How clumsy of you. You should go to the medical bay." Yuna looked up at him. Her face was pale from pain, but her expression was steady. "Yes, sir," she said. She walked to the medical bay alone, holding her burned hands in front of her. The medical staff there were shocked by the damage. On most species in the station, such burns would cause weeks of recovery. The pain alone would require heavy medication. Yuna refused the strong painkillers. She asked only for bandages and basic treatment. The next morning, she returned to work. Toric saw her in the cargo bay, her hands wrapped in white bandages, lifting boxes as if nothing had happened. He felt a cold sensation in his stomach. On his homeworld, such an injury would have ended someone's career. They would have been helpless for months. But this human had returned in less than a day. What was she? He began to watch her more carefully. He noticed things he had missed before. The way she moved with perfect balance, even when carrying heavy loads. The way her eyes tracked movement around her, always aware of her surroundings. The way she could work for hours without showing fatigue. The Villani had never been prey animals. They had evolved on a world without predators. But something ancient in Torek's brain began sending him signals he did not understand. Something that whispered danger. He ignored it. He pushed harder. Over the next few weeks, Torek found new ways to torment Una. He assigned her to the cargo bays near the station's outer hull, where the temperature could drop to freezing or rise to scorching, depending on which way the station was facing. He made her work in sections with bad air circulation, where the oxygen was thin. He gave her shifts in the zero-gravity loading areas, knowing that most grounders got sick in such environments. Una adapted to everything. The cold did not slow her down. Humans, Torek learned too late, were persistence hunters. They had evolved to regulate their body temperature in ways most species could not. The thin air made her breathe harder, but she kept working. And in zero gravity, she moved with careful precision, learning the environment within days. Dohi watched all of this with growing concern. She had become Yuna's friend over the past months, sharing meals and conversations. She knew that Yuna was strong, but she also knew that everyone had limits. "You cannot keep doing this," she told Yuna one evening. They were sitting in the small room that served as Yuna's living quarters. It was barely bigger than a closet, with just enough space for a bed and a small desk. "Torek will not stop. He is obsessed with you now. You need to report him or transfer out." Yuna was unwrapping the bandages from her hands. The burns had healed remarkably fast, leaving only faint pink scars. She examined them thoughtfully. "If I report him, what happens?" she asked. "There will be an investigation. And during the investigation, Torek keeps his position. He has powerful friends. The investigation finds nothing conclusive. He becomes more careful and angrier. He takes his anger out on someone else." Yuna looked at Dohi. "I have seen this before. On Earth, in the places where I worked. Bad bosses are the same everywhere." "Then what will you do?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer than usual. "On Earth there is a saying, the nail that sticks up gets hammered down. But there is another saying too, patience can wear away stone." She finished with her bandages and flexed her fingers. "Torek thinks he is the hammer. He does not realize that he is the stone." Dohi did not fully understand, but she felt a shiver run through her. At the same time, Biru was facing his own crisis. The small Katrani had watched Yuna's suffering and felt shame at his own fear. One day, when Torek was screaming at him for a minor mistake, Biru did something he had never done before. He said no. It was a small word, barely a whisper, but Torek heard it. His yellow eyes went wide with surprise, then narrow with anger. "What did you say to me?" Biru was trembling so hard he could barely stand. But he thought of Yuna, working with burned hands, never giving up. He found a tiny piece of courage he did not know he had. "I said no," he repeated. "I did not make a mistake. You are wrong." Torek stepped forward, looming over the small alien. For a moment, violence hung in the air. Then a voice came from behind them. "Is there a problem here?" Yuna stood in the doorway of the cargo bay. Her voice was calm and quiet as always, but something in her posture had changed. She stood very still, her weight balanced. Her dark eyes fixed on Torek. The Villani felt that strange sensation again, that ancient warning from a part of his brain he had never needed before. He stepped back from Biru without thinking about it. "No problem," he said. "Get back to work, all of you." He walked away quickly, telling himself that he was not retreating. He was simply choosing his battles. But that night, alone in his quarters, Torek made a decision. The human woman had to go. If she would not break, he would find another way to remove her. He would use the system itself as his weapon. He began to plan. Torek spent 3 weeks preparing his trap. He was careful. He was patient. For once, he did not let his anger control him. He had learned that the human woman could not be broken through simple cruelty, so he would use a different weapon. He would use the law. The station had strict rules about theft. Stealing medical supplies was considered one of the worst crimes, because such supplies could mean the difference between life and death for station residents. The punishment was severe. Immediate termination of employment, seizure of all assets, deportation to a penal colony on the Outer Rim. Torek had access to the cargo manifest. He knew when medical shipments arrived and where they were stored. Late one night, When the cameras in a certain corridor were scheduled for maintenance, he took a small box of supplies from the medical warehouse. He planted them in Yuna's locker, hidden beneath her spare uniform. Then he filed an anonymous report. Station security arrived the next morning. Yuna was working in Cargo Bay 7 when two officers approached her. She looked up from her work, saw their expressions, and knew immediately that something was wrong. "Yuna of Earth?" the lead officer said. He was a tall being with gray skin and 4 eyes, all of them cold. "Yes. You are under investigation for theft of controlled medical supplies. Please come with us." The other workers in the cargo bay stopped what they were doing. They watched as Yuna set down her cargo scanner and walked calmly toward the officers. She did not resist. She did not argue. She simply said, "I understand." Torek was watching from the supervisor's office above the cargo bay. He allowed himself a small smile. Yuna was taken to a holding area while security searched her locker. They found the medical supplies exactly where Torek had planted them. The evidence was clear. The supplies had been reported missing 3 days ago. They were now in her possession. The administrative council convened that afternoon. It was a panel of 5 senior station officials who handled serious disciplinary matters. Yuna stood before them, still in her work uniform, her hands folded in front of her. "The evidence against you is substantial," the head of the council said. She was an elderly Villani woman with faded blue scales. "The supplies were found in your personal locker. Do you have anything to say in your defense?" Yuna was silent for a moment. Then she said, "I did not steal those supplies. I have never entered the medical warehouse. Someone put them in my locker to make me look guilty. Do you have proof of this?" "No, but I believe that if you investigate further, you will find the truth." The council members exchanged glances. They had heard such claims before. Everyone claimed to be innocent. Torek was sitting in the gallery watching the proceedings. He kept his face neutral, but inside he was celebrating. The human woman was finished. No one would believe her without evidence, and he had been very careful to leave no evidence. Then the doors opened. Dohi walked into the hearing room, carrying a data tablet. Behind her came Baru, his 6 limbs trembling but his small eyes determined. "Council members were on," Dohi said. "I request permission to present evidence." The head of the council raised an eyebrow. "This is highly irregular. The investigation has already concluded." The investigation was incomplete. Dohi stepped forward and activated the tablet. A holographic display appeared in the air. "I have been documenting the activities of Supervisor Torek for the past 2 months. What I am about to show you is security footage from outside the medical warehouse on the night the supplies disappeared." Torek felt his blood go cold. The footage showed a figure entering the warehouse during the camera maintenance window. But Dohi had found another camera, one that Torek had not known about. It was a personal security device that a nearby shop owner had installed to watch his door. It had captured Torek entering the warehouse and leaving with a small box. More footage followed. Torek accessing Yuna's locker bay. Torek walking past her locker at an unusual hour. The timestamp matched the night before the anonymous report. "I also have records of the anonymous report," Dohi continued. "The station's system logs show that it was filed from a terminal in the supervisor's office, a terminal that only Torek has access to." The gallery erupted in murmurs. The council members leaned forward, studying the evidence. Torek stood up. "This is fabricated," he shouted. "That human woman and her friends have created false evidence to protect her." The head of the council silenced him with a look. "The evidence will be verified by our technical experts. Until then, you will remain silent." The verification took 2 hours. The footage was authentic. The system logs were genuine. The evidence was overwhelming. The council dismissed all charges against Yuna. They then turned their attention to Torek. "Supervisor Torek," the head of the council said, "you are hereby reprimanded for filing a false report and attempting to frame an innocent worker. Your conduct is unacceptable." Torek waited for more, for the arrest, for the deportation, for the same punishment he had tried to inflict on Yuna. It did not come. "You will receive a formal warning in your personnel file," the council head continued. "Any further incidents will result in termination. This hearing is concluded." That was all. A warning, a note in a file, nothing more. Yuna watched the council members leave. She understood what had happened. Torek was Villani. He had connections. He had friends in high places. The system protected its own. Outside the hearing room, Dohi grabbed Yuna's arm. "That is not fair," Dohi said, her voice tight with anger. "He tried to destroy your life. And he gets a warning?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Her face showed nothing. But something had changed behind her dark eyes. Something had shifted. "Thank you for saving me," she said finally. "Both of you." She looked at Biru, who was still trembling but managed a small smile. "I will not forget this." "What will you do now?" Biru asked. Yuna did not answer immediately. She looked back at the hearing room, where Torek was still sitting, his face twisted with humiliation and rage. "I will go back to work," she said. That night, Torek found Yuna in a maintenance corridor. The area was empty. The cameras were distant. He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "You think you have won?" he hissed. "You have won nothing. Your friends cannot protect you every moment. I will make your life so miserable that you will beg to leave this station. And if you do not leave..." He leaned closer, his yellow eyes burning with hatred. "I will find a way to end you. Permanently." Yuna looked up at him. For the first time since she had arrived on the station, her expression changed. The softness faded from her eyes. The polite mask disappeared. What Torek saw underneath made him step back without meaning to. "You should have stopped while you could," Yuna said. Her voice was still quiet, but it was no longer soft. It was cold. "I gave you chances, many chances, but you chose this path. Remember that." She walked past him and continued down the corridor. Torek stood alone in the dim light, his heart beating too fast. For just a moment, he had seen something in that human woman's eyes. Something that his ancestors, safe on their paradise world, had never needed to fear. He had seen a predator. The days after the hearing were strange on Orbital Harmony. Word had spread through the cargo section about what Torek had done. Workers who had once feared him now looked at him differently. They still obeyed his orders, but there was something new in their eyes. Doubt, distrust, and everyone watched Yuna. She returned to work the day after the hearing, as if nothing had happened. She lifted cargo. She checked manifests. She did her job with the same quiet efficiency as always. But those who looked closely noticed something different about her. She moved differently now. Before, Yuna had moved like a worker, practical, functional, head down, focused on her tasks. Now she moved like something else. Her steps were lighter. Her posture was straighter. She seemed aware of everything around her at all times, her dark eyes tracking movement at the edges of her vision. The Katrani workers, with their sensitive prey instincts, felt it first. They gave Yuna extra space in the corridors. Not out of fear exactly, more like respect. The kind of respect that small creatures give to larger ones. A group of Hrun traders had been visiting the station for the past week. The Hrun were from a high-gravity world, not as harsh as Earth, but still difficult. They were massive beings, muscular and dense, with thick gray skin. Other species usually feared them. The Hrun did not fear Yuna, but they watched her with knowing eyes. "That one is like us," one of them said to his companion, observing Yuna from across the cargo bay. "From a world that fights back. Small, though," the other replied. "Size means little. Look at how she moves. Look at how she watches. She is ready." "Ready for what?" The first Haroon did not answer. He did not need to. Torek noticed the change too, though he did not understand it. He saw that Yuna no longer reacted to his presence. When he walked past her, she did not tense up. She did not look away. She simply continued what she was doing, as if he did not exist. This should have been a relief. Instead, it made Torek uneasy. He tried to continue his harassment. He assigned Yuna to the worst jobs. He criticized her work in front of others. He did everything he had done before. None of it worked. The harsh assignments did not slow her down. The criticism did not embarrass her. She absorbed everything like stone absorbing rain. Nothing touched her. Dohi noticed the change as well. One evening, she found Yuna in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The deck was a large room with windows that showed the endless darkness of space, spotted with distant suns. "What are you thinking about?" Dohi asked, sitting down beside her. Una was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thoughtful. On Earth, there is an animal called a tiger. It is a big cat, a predator. Very beautiful, very dangerous. She paused. When a tiger hunts, it does not chase its prey immediately. First it watches, it learns the prey's patterns, it finds the right moment. And when it moves only once. Dohi felt a chill. Una, what are you planning? I am not planning anything. Una turned to look at her friend. Her eyes were calm, but there was something deep in them. Something old. I am simply waiting. Torek will make a choice. He will either stop or he will not. If he stops, this ends peacefully. If he does not, she did not finish the sentence. You are scaring me, Dohi admitted. I am sorry, I do not mean to. Una's expression softened slightly. I do not want to hurt anyone. I never have. But I have learned something about myself and about people like Torek. If you show weakness, they push harder. If you fight back too soon, they claim to be victims. But if you wait, if you let them make all the choices, then when the end comes, it is their own fault. And what will the end be? Una looked back at the stars. That depends on him. Meanwhile, Biru had found new courage. The small Katrani had watched Una stand up to the system and survive. He had helped save her, and the experience had changed him. He no longer cowered when Torek walked past. He did his work efficiently and left on time. He even made small jokes with the other workers. One day, Torek caught Biru smiling. What are you so happy about? Torek demanded. In the past, Biru would have trembled and apologized. Now he simply looked at Torek with his small black eyes. I am happy because I have good friends, he said, and because bad things do not last forever. Torek felt his face flush with anger. The little creature was mocking him. Everyone was mocking him. The human woman had turned his own workers against him. His hatred grew. He began watching Una more carefully, looking for weaknesses. He studied her schedule. He noted which routes she took through the station. He observed who she spent time with. He was no longer thinking about making her quit. He was thinking about something darker. The other Villani on the station began to distance themselves from Torek. His behavior had become erratic. He muttered to himself. He snapped at colleagues. His work performance declined as he spent more and more time obsessing over the human woman who had embarrassed him. One of his former friends tried to warn him. Let it go, the friend said. She is just a cargo worker. You are destroying yourself over nothing. Nothing! Torek's eyes were wild. She has ruined everything. My reputation, my authority. The workers do not fear me anymore, and it is all because of her. Then transfer to another section. Start fresh. No. Torek shook his head. I will not run from a primitive Deathworlder. I am Villani. We do not flee. His friend looked at him with something like pity. The Villani have never needed to flee, he said quietly. We have never faced true predators. Maybe that is why you do not recognize one when you see it. Torek dismissed the warning. He was too deep in his obsession to hear reason. In the cargo section, Una continued her work. She was patient. She was calm. She was waiting. And deep inside her, in the part of her brain that humans had inherited from millions of years of survival on a hostile world, something was awake. Something that had been sleeping since she left Earth. Her ancestors had faced ice ages and predators and famines. They had walked across continents. They had outlasted every challenge their planet could throw at them. They had learned that survival required two things: the patience to wait for the right moment and the will to act without hesitation when that moment came. Una had both. She did not know exactly what Torek would do next, but she knew he would do something. People like him always did. They could not help themselves, so she waited and she watched and she prepared. The tiger was patient, but the tiger was also ready. Torek spent days planning his next move. He was more careful this time. The hearing had taught him that direct evidence could be found, so he would not leave any evidence. He would not use the station systems. He would handle this personally. He contacted two other Villani who worked in different sections of the station. They were not his friends exactly. They were more like tools. Beings who had helped him discipline workers before, when official channels seemed too slow. They were large and mean and did not ask questions. I need your help with a problem, Torek told them. A human worker who has been causing trouble. She needs to learn her place. The two Villani agreed. They did not like humans either, primitive creatures from a death world, thinking they belonged among civilized species. It would be satisfying to remind one of them of the natural order. They chose their moment carefully. Cargo Bay 12 was scheduled for maintenance during the third shift. The cameras would be offline. The lighting would be reduced. No other workers would be present. Torek arranged for Yuna to be assigned to that bay for inventory work. Alone. On the night of the confrontation, Yuna walked into Cargo Bay 12 carrying a data tablet. The bay was large and dark, filled with stacked containers that created shadows and hiding places. The emergency lighting gave everything a dim red glow. She stopped in the center of the bay and looked around. She knew. Of course she knew. She had been watching Torek for weeks. She had seen him meeting with the two other Villani. She had noticed the way they looked at her. She had checked the maintenance schedule and understood why she had been assigned to this specific bay on this specific night. She could have refused the assignment. She could have reported her suspicions. She could have asked Dohi or Biru to come with her. She had chosen to come alone. Torek emerged from behind a stack of containers. His two associates appeared from other directions, forming a triangle around Yuna. They were all much taller than her. In the red emergency light, their blue scales looked almost black. "Did you think I would let you win?" Torek asked. His voice echoed in the empty bay. "Did you think you could embarrass me and suffer no consequences?" Yuna stood very still. Her data tablet hung at her side. Her face showed no fear. "I gave you a chance to stop," she said. "I told you." "You told me nothing human." Torek stepped closer. "You are from a death world. Do you know what that means to us? It means you are an animal. A clever animal, perhaps, but still just a beast from a rock that should have killed your species long ago." "You do not know anything about my world," Yuna said. "I know enough. I know that your kind does not belong here, among civilized beings. And I know that tonight, you are going to learn a lesson you will never forget." The two associates moved closer. One of them was flexing his long fingers, eager to begin. Yuna looked at each of them in turn. Her dark eyes were calm, almost sad. "You have never seen a real animal from my world," she said. "If you had, you would not be here." Torek laughed. "Are you trying to frighten us? You are one small female against three Villani. What do you think you can do?" Yuna did not answer with words. She moved. What happened next took 11 seconds. The Villani had never evolved to face predators. Their reflexes were slow by human standards. Their bodies were optimized for a low-gravity world, tall and elegant but fragile. They had never needed to be anything else. Yuna had grown up in gravity 3 times stronger than theirs. Her muscles were dense with fibers that the Villani did not even possess. Her reflexes had been honed by millions of years of evolution on a world where slow creatures died. The first associate reached for her. Yuna dropped beneath his grasp, her body moving with explosive speed. Her fist struck his knee joint from the side. The joint was not designed to take force from that angle. It buckled. The Villani collapsed with a scream. The second associate tried to grab her from behind. Yuna spun, using momentum that seemed impossible for her small frame. Her elbow struck his throat. Not hard enough to kill, but hard enough to collapse his airway temporarily. He fell, gasping for breath. 11 seconds. 2 opponents down. Torek had not even moved. He stood frozen, his brain unable to process what he was seeing. The human woman, the quiet cargo worker, had just disabled 2 Villani in less time than it took to draw a breath. Now she was walking toward him. He tried to run. His legs would not obey. Some ancient part of his brain had finally recognized what was happening. He was prey. He had always been prey. He had just never known it before. Yuna reached him. Her hands shot out and grabbed his throat. She did not squeeze. She just held him, pushing him back against a cargo container. Her grip was iron. "I gave you chances," she said. Her voice was quiet, almost gentle. "Every day, every insult, every cruelty. I waited for you to stop. I hoped you would be better. I wanted to believe that you could change." She looked into his yellow eyes. He saw no anger there, no hatred, just a cold, tired sadness. "You could not change," she continued. "Some people cannot. They have to push and push until something pushes back. She tightened her grip slightly. Not enough to choke him, but enough to remind him that she could. This is me pushing back. Please, Torek whispered. It was the first time in his life he had ever said that word. I am not going to kill you, Yuna said. That is not who I am, but I need you to understand something. I need you to understand it completely. She leaned closer. You are not the predator here. You never were. You are just a bully who never faced consequences. But now you have faced them. And if you ever come after me again, if you ever hurt my friends, if you ever target another worker the way you targeted me, I will not give you another warning. She released him. Torek slid down the container and sat on the floor, his legs too weak to hold him. He could not speak. He could not think. Everything he had believed about himself, about humans, about the universe, had shattered in 11 seconds. Yuna looked at the two associates. One was still on the ground, holding his broken knee. The other was breathing again but showed no desire to continue the fight. Take your friend to the medical bay, she told him. Do not tell them what really happened. If you do, I will tell them why you were here. I do not think any of you want that. The Villani nodded frantically. Yuna picked up her data tablet. She looked at Torek one more time. This is your last warning, she said. There will not be another. Then she walked out of the cargo bay, leaving 3 broken Villani behind her. In the dim red light, Torek sat alone with his shame. He had wanted to teach the human woman her place. Instead, she had taught him his. He should have been angry. He should have been planning revenge. But all he felt was fear. For the first time in his life, Torek understood what it meant to be prey. The 2 Villani associates went to the medical bay that night. They claimed they had been injured in a cargo accident. The doctors were suspicious because the injuries did not match any accident they had seen before. A knee broken from the side. A throat struck with precise force. These were combat injuries, but the Villani refused to say more. They were treated and released. They never went near Yuna again. In fact, they never went near any human again. Something had changed in them that night, a new understanding of where they stood in the galaxy's hierarchy. Torek did not go to the medical bay. He went to his quarters and stayed there for 2 days. He did not eat. He barely slept. He sat in the darkness, replaying those 11 seconds in his mind. He had been so certain of his superiority, so confident that a small human woman could not possibly threaten him, and she had dismantled that belief with her bare hands. When he finally returned to work, he was different. He avoided Yuna completely. He no longer shouted at workers. He did his job quietly and went home. The other workers noticed the change but did not comment. They were just relieved. Dohi found Yuna in the cafeteria the day after the incident. I heard something happened in Cargo Bay 12, she said carefully. Rumors are going around. They say 3 Villani were found injured. Yuna took a bite of her food. I would not know anything about that. Yuna! Dohi! Yuna met her friend's eyes. Sometimes rumors are just rumors. Dohi studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Sometimes they are, she agreed. I am just glad you are safe. I am safe, and I think things will be calmer from now on. For a while they were. Torek stopped his harassment completely. He did not assign Yuna bad shifts. He did not criticize her work. He barely looked at her. Some of the workers thought he had finally learned his lesson. Others thought he was planning something. They were half right. The truth was that Torek was not planning. He was falling apart. His reputation had already been damaged by the hearing. Now word spread quietly about what had happened in Cargo Bay 12. The details were vague, but the message was clear. A human woman had defeated 3 Villani in a fight. One of them was Torek, the fearsome supervisor. The Villani community on the station began to distance themselves from him. He was an embarrassment, a reminder that their species might not be as superior as they believed. His colleagues stopped inviting him to social events. His superiors started questioning his performance reports. 2 weeks after the incident, Torek received official notice. His position as supervisor was being terminated due to poor performance and workplace violations. He had 30 days to find new employment or leave the station. At first, Torek felt nothing. He was numb. His entire world had collapsed around him. His career, his status, his pride, Everything he had built over 12 years had been destroyed. Then the numbness faded, and rage took its place. This was all her fault, the human woman. She had done this to him. She had humiliated him, turned his workers against him, ruined his career. And she was still here, still working, still living her quiet life as if nothing had happened. It was not fair. It was not right. Torek began to drink. The station had establishments that served various intoxicants, and Torek visited them often. He sat alone in dark corners, nursing his hatred, letting it grow. His thoughts became darker. He had tried harassment. He had tried framing her. He had tried physical intimidation. None of it had worked. The human woman was too strong, too smart, too connected. She had friends who protected her. She had skills that made her dangerous. But everyone had weaknesses. Everyone could be hurt. Torek began watching her again. Not like before, not openly. He was careful now. He observed from a distance. He learned her routines. He noted when she was alone and when she was with others. He visited the industrial section of the station and found what he was looking for. A plasma cutter. It was a tool designed to slice through metal hulls. It could cut through anything, including flesh. He signed out the tool using a false work order. No one questioned it. He was still technically an employee for another 20 days. He had access. He took the plasma cutter back to his quarters and looked at it for a long time. The weapon was heavy in his hands. It could fire a beam hot enough to melt steel. Somewhere in his mind, a voice told him this was madness, that he was throwing away everything for revenge against someone who had only defended herself. That he still had a chance to leave the station, start over somewhere else, rebuild his life. He ignored that voice. The rage was too strong now. It had consumed everything else. All that remained was the burning need to make the human woman pay. He would find her. He would confront her. And this time, she would not walk away. Meanwhile, Yuna continued her daily routine. She knew that Torek had been fired. She had hoped that would be the end of it. She had hoped he would take his remaining time on the station to pack his things and leave quietly. But she did not truly believe he would. She had seen the look in his eyes that night in Cargo Bay 12. The look of a wounded animal, dangerous, unpredictable. People like Torek did not accept defeat. They could not. Their pride would not allow it. She mentioned her concerns to Dohi. "Do you think he will try something?" Dohi asked. "I think he cannot help himself," Yuna said. "He has lost everything. His job, his status, his sense of who he is. I am the symbol of that loss. As long as I am here, he cannot move on. Then we should report him. Tell security that he might be dangerous." "And say what? That I'm afraid of a man who has not done anything? They will not act until something happens." Dohi looked frustrated. "So we just wait?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. "I have been waiting my whole life," she said finally. "Waiting for storms to pass on Earth. Waiting for difficult seasons to end. Waiting for problems to solve themselves or for the right moment to act. I can wait a little longer. And if he does something," Yuna's dark eyes were calm, steady, ready. "Then I will handle it." The days counted down. Torek's deadline approached, and in the darkness of his quarters, a broken Villani polished his stolen weapon and planned his final act. He had watched Yuna long enough to know her patterns. Every few evenings, she visited the observation deck to watch the stars. Sometimes her friends came with her, sometimes she went alone. Tonight, according to his surveillance, she would have company. Her human friend Do-hee and the small Katrani called Biru. That was fine. He did not care about them. They could run. They could watch. It did not matter. What mattered was ending the human woman who had destroyed his life. He took the plasma cutter from its hiding place. He put on a long coat to conceal it. He walked through the station corridors with the calm of someone who had already decided his fate. The observation deck was quiet at this hour. Most workers were sleeping or in the entertainment district. Yuna sat near the large windows, looking out at the endless darkness dotted with stars. Do-hee sat beside her, and Biru was curled up on a nearby seat, his 6 limbs tucked beneath him. They were talking softly. Yuna was smiling at something Do-hee had said. For a moment she looked peaceful, happy. Torek felt his hatred surge. He stepped through the entrance of the observation deck. His coat swung open as he raised the plasma cutter. "Human!" he screamed. Yuna turned. She saw Torek, the weapon in his hands, the madness in his eyes. Her expression did not change. "Go," she said to her friends. Her voice was calm. "Now." Dohi and Biru hesitated for only a second. Then they ran for the side exit, Biru moving faster on his 6 limbs than anyone would have expected. Torek did not try to stop them. His eyes were locked on Yuna. "You ruined everything," he said. His voice cracked. "My career, my reputation, my life. Everything I worked for. Gone. Because of you." Yuna stood slowly. She did not run. She did not scream. She simply faced him. "I did not ruin your life, Torek. You did that yourself. Every choice was yours. I only defended myself." "Defended yourself?" He laughed, a broken sound. "You humiliated me. You turned everyone against me. You made me nothing. You were always nothing." Yuna's voice was quiet but sharp. "You just did not know it. You thought power meant hurting people who could not fight back. You thought strength meant cruelty. But real strength is not about what you can destroy. It is about what you can build, what you can protect, what you can endure." "Shut up!" Torek raised the plasma cutter higher. "I did not come here for a lecture. I came to end this." "Then end it." Yuna did not move. She stood straight, her dark eyes fixed on him. She was not begging. She was not crying. She was simply waiting. Torek's hands were shaking. He had imagined this moment so many times. He had pictured her fear, her pleas for mercy. Instead, she faced him with the same calm she had shown since the day they met. He fired. Yuna moved. She was fast, faster than he could track, but not fast enough. The plasma beam grazed her shoulder, burning through her uniform and scorching her skin. She stumbled but did not fall. And then she was coming toward him. The pain should have stopped her. On any other species, such a burn would cause shock, collapse, unconsciousness. But humans were not any other species. They were from a world that had tried to kill them for millions of years. Their bodies could ignore pain when survival demanded it. Yuna closed the distance in 3 steps. Torek tried to fire again. He was too slow. Yuna's hand caught his wrist and twisted. The plasma cutter fell from his grip. Her other hand struck his elbow, bending it the wrong way. He heard a crack. Pain exploded through his arm. She did not stop. She took him down with brutal efficiency, a sweep of his legs, a strike to his shoulder that dislocated it, a knee to his chest that cracked ribs. She was not fighting with anger. She was not fighting with hatred. She was simply doing what needed to be done, with the cold precision of an apex predator ending a threat. When station security arrived 3 minutes later, they found Torek on the floor of the observation deck. He was alive but badly injured. Multiple fractures, a dislocated shoulder, cracked ribs. He was conscious enough to moan in pain, but too broken to move. Yuna stood over him, her wounded shoulder bleeding steadily. Her face showed nothing. "He attacked me," she said to the security officers. "I defended myself." The security footage confirmed her account. It showed everything. Torek entering with a concealed weapon. Torek threatening her and her friends. Torek firing first. Yuna's defense was clearly justified. The next few hours passed in a blur of medical treatment and official statements. Yuna's shoulder was treated. The burn was serious but not permanent. She would scar, but she would recover. Torek was taken to the medical bay under guard. When he was stable enough to be moved, he was transferred to a detention cell. The charges were attempted murder and possession of an illegal weapon. There would be no light reprimand this time. No friends in high places to protect him. He had attacked a worker with a weapon in full view of security cameras. The Villani government, embarrassed by one of their own attempting to murder a human over a workplace dispute, did not intervene. They let the station's justice system handle the case. Torek was convicted within a week and sentenced to 15 years in a penal facility. His career was truly over now. His life, at least the life he had known, was finished, and he had no one to blame but himself. A few days after the incident, Yuna returned to work. Dohi met her at the entrance to the cargo section. "Are you sure you should be back already? Your shoulder—" My shoulder's fine. Yuna rolled it carefully, showing that she could move it without too much pain. And I have work to do. After everything that happened, Yuna looked out at the cargo bay. Workers were moving containers, checking manifests, doing the endless work that kept the station running. Some of them saw her and nodded with respect. Others looked away, uncomfortable with what they had witnessed. This is my home now, Yuna said. I did not come here to let one person drive me away. I came here to work, to live, to build something, and that is what I am going to do. Biru scurried over to join them, his 6 limbs clicking on the floor. The other workers are talking about you, he said. They say you are the toughest person on the station. They say Torek was a fool to challenge you. Yuna shook her head. I am not tough. I just do what I have to do. She paused. On Earth there is a word, endure. It means to survive through difficulty. Not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by refusing to give up. That is what humans do. We endure. She looked at her friends. At Dohi, who had saved her with evidence. At Biru, who had found courage he did not know he had. At the cargo bay that had become her world. I did not want to hurt Torek, she said quietly. I never wanted any of this. I just wanted to do my job and live my life. But some people only understand one language. They push until something pushes back. She touched her injured shoulder. I gave him so many chances to stop. He chose not to take them. Do you regret it? Dohi asked. Yuna was quiet for a long moment. I regret that it was necessary, she said finally. But I do not regret protecting myself. Or protecting you. We have a right to exist. We have a right to be safe. And sometimes we have to fight for those rights. She picked up a cargo scanner and headed toward the loading bay. Now, she said, I have work to do. In the observation deck, the stars continued to shine. Ships came and went. The station turned slowly in the void. And life went on, as it always did, with all its cruelties and kindnesses, its struggles and triumphs. Yuna had come to orbital harmony as a quiet worker from a distant planet. She had faced harassment, false accusations, and attempted murder. She had endured it all and emerged stronger. She was not special among humans. Any of her kind could have done what she did. They were all forged on the same Deathworld, shaped by the same endless challenges. Patience, endurance, and quiet fury were their birthright. The galaxy was beginning to understand this, and perhaps in time, they would learn the most important lesson of all. Humans did not look for trouble. They did not seek conflict. They preferred peace, cooperation, friendship. But if you pushed them too far, if you mistook their patience for weakness, if you threatened what they loved, they would show you what a death world truly created. Not monsters, survivors,